Okay, we've done our planning. It's time for us to both make our moves.
So both of you have 2 operations prioritized, ready to go?
If America tried to invade Taiwan after China had taken it over for 90 days militarily, it would probably be the dumbest idea of all time for the entire planet. I feel like that might be like a bridge too far for even the biggest in America. We're going to Donald Harris in a second to talk about Taiwan and with China. And then I'll do this too. Let's welcome Donald Harris into our homes.
U.S. forces defend the island.
Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack.
They don't pay us money for the protection, you know?
I'm standing on a giant map at CNA, getting ready to play a game about war.
In Taiwan, a delicate piece looks a little more fragile.
Today I'll be assuming the role of the leader of China.
I am presumably the leader of the PRC right now. Okay, amazing.
And Sam, the creator of our channel Search Party, is playing the leader of the United States. I, China, have just invaded Taiwan, and I have troops there. It's been 90 days, and now Sam has to decide whether to respond and how. But wait, what's going on here? We're surrounded by experts in all kinds of fields having to do with war. And we're at an organization that does research and analysis for the US military. But we're rolling.
It's shocking how Donald was able to film this while nutting so hard. Like nutting harder than he's ever nutted. It's crazy that he was able to keep it in his pants the whole time.
Dice. We're playing on a giant game board.
Why do we need to play games about war? Games are a very cheap way to get better at decisions and then
Militaries spend millions of dollars on designing and playing games. And I came here to understand why. Here's the US military gaming out World II battles before they happened. Here's the Vietnam, the Iraq, and lately they've been...
Okay, that's like 1 W and then the rest is L's. So maybe games are not the best, you know?
Been gaming out what might happen if China invades Taiwan. That's what we're doing today. Now, this has always struck me as odd, that we play games for... So I asked CNA if I could come do one for myself to see what I could learn. So let's see how this face-off goes, using this giant map. And in the process, we'll learn why militaries play games. Okay, so here's how it works. The game designers have created a scenario where I, China, have invaded Taiwan.
For 90 days, we have had boots on the ground in Taiwan.
And all these blocks represent the weapons, the vessels, and troops that I have.
This is so dumb. If China has already militarily occupied Taiwan for 90 days, what the f is the American government supposed to do? Nothing. Let them have it at that point then. It's so stupid. That means it's over. Unless you just wipe out the f***ing Taiwanese population, you know? What do you mean? The entire point is supposed to be defense before China actively Taiwan and takes it over, if there was any appetite for that at all. Like, this doesn't make any sense. If at any point China has militarily successfully overtaken Taiwan and has occupied it for 90 days, then it's already, it's over, you know what I mean? Like, shouldn't the real games be before that happens?
Have in my theater. The game designers have given both Sam and me specific objectives that reflect real-world objectives in a conflict like this. And that's about it. It's now on us to make decisions as if we were the leaders of our respective sides and see how the other side reacts. While Sam is consulting with his advisors on the first move, I start thinking about the countries in this region. How do I use this moment to undermine confidence in the US? To make the US look less trustworthy? Right away, I'm feeling like I have the upper hand here. I've captured Taiwan, and now all I need to do is keep the US military and its allies away.
I want to make it really costly for the US, where any calculation they have to make comes with a very high cost to American citizens.
We've just begun this game, and I'm already surprised at how into this I'm getting. At me that I invaded Taiwan. My worry that he'll respond and escalate this conflict. So I start working on a plan to make it difficult and costly for him to respond, hopefully keeping him out of here. We head to the map to start looking at options. I toy around with creating a blockade around the island.
We'd have the advantage of proximity and speed to set up a wall that says this is going to be costly.
But this is where I start thinking about the US's presence in the region, especially in Japan and Korea.
There's a huge presence here. Is this a vulnerability? I think the scariest thing is just the movement across the strait is probably where they're going to focus in. And it's like, can I stop that? So I'm trying to think of these contingencies, what they might do.
Okay, I'm about to take my turn, but I want to pause to thank today's sponsor, Incogni, for sponsoring today's video. All of our personal information is really valuable, and companies buy and sell it so that they can target us for a variety of things. Advertisements, insurance premiums. There's an entire economy of data brokers that use your name and your address and your phone number and your email and your demographics and your browsing habits to try to make money. It's the major reason why robocalls and junk mail are so pervasive. But it also leaves us vulnerable to identity theft. Luckily, we are protected by the law. You have a right to privacy. You can request to be taken off these lists. The problem is there are hundreds of these lists, and it's not easy to request to be taken off all of them. Incogni does this for you. You sign up for Incogni, you give them permission to act on your behalf to go make requests to take you off these lists. And they do that. They do the hard work of restoring your privacy. And my favorite part is you get to check in on it. They've got this dashboard. So to date, they've taken me off of 657 lists. And they've successfully taken me off of 533 of those lists. And they estimate that they've saved me almost 400 hours. They're giving 60% off to all of you if you use the link in my description. It's incogni.com/Johnny Hirsch. You get 60% off the yearly plan. Thanks Incogni for sponsoring today's video. I know all of you are excited to get back to the giant map to see what move I make in the South China Sea. Let's do it. Now, I've studied the geopolitics of this region extensively, but already I feel myself looking at this region in a whole new way. So my plan is to beef up my naval presence around Taiwan, while also moving more of my troops onto the island, hoping that Sam doesn't attack.
Great, I think we have a plan here, and I guess I'll wait to see what Blue does.
Over on Team Blue, Sam seems to be contemplating punishing me, not with a direct strike, but by targeting my natural resources.
I think oil is probably a move.
Okay, we've done our planning. It's time for us to both make our moves.
So both of you have 2 operations prioritized, ready to go?
If America tried to invade Taiwan after China had taken it over for 90 days militarily, it would probably be the dumbest idea of all time for the entire planet. I feel like that might be like a bridge too far for even the biggest in America. This isn't to say that like, oh, the Taiwanese people would welcome the Chinese as liberators or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm simply talking about like state versus state, like what they have to lose in this process. I mean, look at Ukraine. Now think about Taiwan versus China, which the American government, even at this point, considers to be a part of China, even though they offer defensive capabilities to Taiwan and want to use Taiwan as a weapon to wield against China at a moment's notice. But literally look at Ukraine. First of all, I don't even know if this would be an invasion. I think it would just be the American bombardment campaign of Taiwan. Like they would just kill a shit ton of people in Taiwan. It would look like the Korea. They would just wipe out parts of Taiwan straight up, just as many people as possible. I don't know how you get out of that situation and you like successfully create an independent Taiwan.
And is consolidating our control over this island and signaling to the rest of the region and to anyone else who might want to get involved that we're really serious about defending. And so we are going to move some of these naval assets to surround the island.
As I make my move, the surreal experience of feeling like the leader of China continues to grow.
We are not here to kick anyone out or to invade other places. We are simply here to realize our role in the region as the leader of the region, and this is our way.
Bro is enjoying that a little too much, okay? Goofy ass.
Way of demonstrating that, and we hope it does not escalate into anything more than it needs to.
Okay, here comes the response from the U.S.
China didn't act.
Hi, Hasan Maz. Just want to know you're all fucking losers. Thumbs up, Israel. Good luck on your continued lack of success at achieving any of your goals. Hey, man. I hate to do this to you, but the country whose flag you are flying in the chat in a positive manner is understandably seen as one of the worst countries on the planet. That was always the case in the global south, but it's certainly now even the case in Western Europe. So no matter how much you feel like you're fighting the good fight, that flag is only associated with genocide, because that's the only thing that people know Israel, the only thing that people associate Israel with now. Good luck, though. I think being an annoying, rapacious scumbag while simultaneously trying to defend Israel by attacking all of the people who are critical of Israel will certainly win people back onto your side. Any day now, people are just going to be like, no, I love Israel, actually. Good luck, you little Nazi. Have fun with your little Nazi state that is a fucking pariah of the world now. You are accomplishing nothing. We are killing terror babies.
Active aggression.
Bro, that's true. US aid is cut, and now Johnny's invading Taiwan. Oh my God. It took literally a week. He's showing US aid the way. Okay, he's like, listen, bitch, you don't keep that steady flow of US aid dollars coming my way, Voice of America style. I will fucking invade Taiwan.
We are basically going to show them the ramifications of that. We would like to choke their natural resources from the Indian Ocean.
The US military begins stopping ships that are bringing oil to China. This is their punishment for my invasion of Taiwan. And this is when I realize that what matters here isn't just how I respond to this, but what narrative I tell the rest of the world that gets them on my side. Storytelling is so important in a war like this.
There's no international legal basis for this behavior. The U.S. is a lawless, hypocritical state that bullies its...
Facts. Oh my God, this is my favorite Donald Harris video so far. He's speaking facts. He is. U.S. is a lawless, terrorist nation. What the fuck is it doing in our territorial waters? Is a great way for Donald Harris to defend on the propaganda front. Respect.
Adversaries.
What we're trying to do here is to show them that they've made an error and that...
Yeah, this motherfucker's pissed that the USAID funding got cut, dude.
We have multiple ways to punish them.
I'm kind of riffing here, but soon I find my narrative and I start to hit it hard.
We are messaging to the world that this kind of behavior of bullying our commercial ships and our energy resources is threatening the whole global economy.
I decide to move some Navy ships over to this important choke point in the global economy near the Suez Canal, Djibouti, where China has a base, from which I can monitor the flow of goods and resources to my region.
Yeah, there's some other critical allies in that region as well that could be helpful to Chinese interests, I think. Something to consider. Djibouti.
We will move a ship over to Djibouti here. It's not intervening in any way, it's just here in case things get a little more real.
I'm particularly interested in what do the countries...
Yeah, bro became Yemeni in the second turn, exactly. He's like, you know, we got our wonderful allies here in the Ansar Allah movement. We've given them hydrogen fuel capabilities. They now have drones that can go thousands of miles, okay? We will be using those drones. We will be using the Ansar Allah drones. They will be stepping on the American and Israeli flags over and over again as they send drones.
Also in the South China Sea and in East Asia feel. They're worried that China is expansionist and they much prefer the U.S. to continue to...
America saying, we worry that China is expansionist is so funny. Like, dude, why are you there? Like... Why are you anywhere that's so far away from America on the other side of the planet in the ass cheek of China? And you're like, man, China is so expansionist. We have to counter them.
Be the one policing free trade in this area, then have China suddenly play that role.
We roll the dice to determine how other countries in the region are reacting to all of this.
Plus two, so it's tie.
The tie means that we adopt the assumption that the neighboring countries are split The game adjudicator, who's kind of the referee, helps move things along in a realistic way.
There's an active debate in the Southeast Asia region over who is the right guarantor of their safety.
No, there isn't. Most people in the region are perfectly willing to do cooperative security agreements with China in the South China Sea, with one notable exception, and that is Pinoy Gang. That's it. That's the one holdout. Pinoy Gang is the only holdout in the region. That's it. The Swagapinos are the only ones who are like, nah, we can't be. We're not fucking with China. Same way the EU is willing to cooperate with Russia instead of the US. I mean, no, not in the same way at all. I think there's a difference between the inherently antagonistic relationship that European Union countries have had with Russia versus the cooperative security agreements that like have already been established, with the exception of the Philippines.
Tensions are rising here as we go back to our advisors to plot the next move. And while we do that, let me briefly get you up to speed on
I also don't think that if the Philippines were used as an unsinkable aircraft carrier for the United States of America, that they wouldn't also be voluntarily welcoming Chinese development projects into the country with open arms. They would as well.
Why we're doing this in the first place. Turns out that playing games about war has been around for a while. As long as there has been war and solid maps.
Bro, I don't care about the war games, man. History of war games is boring. Get back to how you're going to dominate the region,
Military leaders have wanted to try to simulate how a war could play out before it happens.
People have been playing games about war for thousands of years.
Ferdinand Marcos was deposed in a revolution and he fled to the United States. His assets were kept in U.S. banks and he holds the Guinness World Record for biggest theft against the government. His son is singing America's tune to get the riches back.
About a game, it's about having an opportunity to think about things outside of actually having to do it.
But it wasn't until the early 1800s that wargaming became more formalized, a serious tool for war training and planning. Real assumptions, real constraints, real game mechanics that mimicked at least some aspects of real war. These Prussian dudes are not playing Risk. They're getting ready for war. There's a lot going on here, but the main point in these games is to present decision makers with scenarios that force them to grapple with the hard decisions of war. World War II saw extensive gaming, so much so that one admiral later said that they had gamed out so many different scenarios of how the conflict with Japan could go that, quote, nothing that happened during the war was a surprise. Absolutely nothing, except the kamikaze tactics towards the end of the war.
Yeah, nothing was a surprise. We just firebombed Japan and inevitably dropped not one but two nukes. The only thing that was a surprise was how fucking crazy we were.
We had not visualized those. War games are practice for war. With time, these war games turned into huge productions involving hundreds or even thousands of participants. They moved on to fancy computer simulations that made it feel more and more real, more and more precise. Some of the games were there to help plan for what might happen in war, but many other games were there to help hone the skills of different officers.
Bro, I've just realized gamers must be lobotomized. It was always gamers that were responsible for all the death and destruction. I'm seeing it now, right in front of me. It was always gamers. Gamers are responsible for all the bloodshed. Oh my God.
To train them. Back on the giant map, the conflict is taking a new turn. Sam has sent a secret operation of American soldiers to covertly sabotage the bomber planes that I had sent to Djibouti. This will require a lot more maintenance and reduce their usefulness in the region. He's also moving a bunch of military assets into this region. I don't like it.
We are stepping up our Navy military assets, but out of range of China's defenses.
Rocket forces?
Yes.
So, we have total control of Taiwan. We've built this big naval blockade around the island. They are sabotaging our natural resources coming from the Middle East. And we, China, are using this as a way to amplify to the world that the US is a lawless bully who is sabotaging us when we're just doing what we're entitled to do. So it's looking pretty good for the PRC today and not looking great for the US.
I'm still feeling really good about all of this. That is, until Sam makes his next move.
Looks like the US is going to escalate here by taking some of their ships through the Taiwan Strait. Floating through the Taiwan Strait to assert that this is international water. They have the right to do this. Gonna come through the strait and show us that they're really serious about defending Taiwan. This is a very risky escalatory move.
Sam's naval ships will be accompanied by Japanese and Filipino ships, a show of solidarity with regional allies.
Take him out. Take him out, Jonald. Show him what's what.
This is not good. I go from feeling great to worried on how I'm going to respond.
We can't let them do this because it completely shatters our whole narrative and our messaging.
Dongfeng missiles out the wazoo. Dongfeng missiles into oblivion.
This FON operation is coming from Japan. It is escorting humanitarian aid to Taiwan. It's been 120 days. They're starving. It's humanitarian.
Wait, what? Why would that? Wait, why would they? No, that's funny. I mean, I like it. He's saying like, you know, China is starving out Taiwan. Why would they do that? Another thumbnail has hit HasanAbi. What is this? Raiding the South China Sea for Chairman Xi? Okay, dude, stop.
Humanitarian aid. That's it.
I think we have to draw the red line and say, if you don't turn back, we are going to sink something. We're not bluffing, and I want to show that. If your humanitarian ship is coming escorted by military vessels, that will be an aggressive move that we will respond to.
We don't recognize your zone around Taiwan, so we are doing that anyway.
We continue our same message that anyone coming into this water for any reason with military vessels is considered with hostile intent and will be treated as such.
Yeah, stop being a pussy. Start bombing.
And we're not bluffing.
Our next moment of action is you're approaching this line of folks.
We bring out a line of ships to physically stop the movement.
I mean, we'll continue to try and avoid, but we're navigating past.
Okay. I'm sure there's somebody on a Chinese vessel that's got a very good video of a maritime militia ship getting rammed to stern.
This is a hostile act and very aggressive, and we are making plans to respond. And we ask you to turn around immediately, or you will face the consequences of this invasive act that we have very clearly signaled to you is not okay. Sam is trying to call my bluff, and I really don't want it to work. I can't let this happen. I have to respond, or else all my threats will lose their credibility. And if you can't tell, I'm now fully immersed in being the leader of China.
This is so stupid.
We have tried to avoid this very moment, but you have given us no choice.
So, to target one of the Filipino ships.
Oh no. Fucking Pinoy gang. Of course, they're the ones that get cooked.
We are firing at
a junior coalition partner, always the first to go.
One vessel attempting to sink it as a way to demonstrate our earnestness. So one way or another, we overwhelm your defenses and we get some missiles through. We sink the Filipino ship.
Because of the chaotic nature of kinetic war, we roll some dice to establish whether or not, in this scuffle, one of these ships fires back and shoots down one of my aircraft. And it turns out they do.
So U.S. takes down one of our jets.
A Filipino ship has been sunk or is sinking.
The U.S. SAG has fired back. There's a big flaming ship that is clearly in the process of sinking in the middle of the strait. Lots of cameras going onto the national newscasts showing these sinking ships. A shooting war has begun. What happens next?
By the way, these are both nuclear armed nations, which I feel like we're just not talking about. These are both nuclear armed nations that also have, not only do they have nukes, but also are directly tied to one another with trade. Trade that, if stopped, would certainly cripple America. Like, probably, it would cripple America significantly worse than China. So I don't know how, like, the This is entirely established on a faulty premise.
Sam acts quickly and retaliates, targeting one of my surface action groups, which looks something like this, sitting here in the Indian Ocean. Things are escalating.
Our ESG in the Indian Ocean sinks one of their SAGs.
Whoa.
We're about to have an engagement unprecedented in modern history.
Yeah. The question becomes, what results from this, right? Is there enough U.S. force to be able to defeat this attack?
If you're trying to do it, absolutely.
My heart is actually beating faster. At this point, we're a couple hours into this, and I find myself having forgotten that I am indeed not Xi Jinping, and that I am in an office building in Arlington, Virginia, playing a game.
I don't want to escalate.
CIA.
Here. I think doing some sort of superficial damage kind of to this ESG would be kind of a reasonable way to just say like, hey, we will, you know.
Yeah, it's funny that he said this is the most realistic way to plan for war, and then started the game in the most unrealistic way. China having invaded Taiwan 90 days ago. Yeah, that's why I said like in the beginning that this would be the stupidest way to conduct this, because if China has already invaded Taiwan, it's no longer Taiwan. It's Chinese Taipei for 90 days. It would be the dumbest thing on the planet. Like, America's opportunity is to try and stop China from successfully overtaking Taiwan. Any point after that fact is just like the most over it's ever been. That's why I said I don't even think America would do. I mean, it's just one scenario, I understand. But it's like the worst one for America. And I'm sure that because this is a John Old Harris video, America's going to end up winning, most likely. But let's
We'll be here if you attack us.
And this is where I really start to understand the value of all of this. This kind of role-playing against a real human opponent in a real-world scenario forces you into a totally different mental experience than reading about it, learning about it, watching movies about it. Totally different, which is the whole point. And what I've shown you here is actually just the highlights of what was nearly a full...
After 90 days, there's nothing left of the Taiwanese government. They're all re-educated now. No, it's not even that. There are enough people in Taiwanese leadership that would, one, instantly fucking wave the flag, wave the PRC flag. And then those would be the leaders that China says are now the leaders in fucking, you know, those are the regional leaders of Chinese Taipei. Yeah, they would probably like KMT. I don't think that they would be, I don't think there would be any need for re-education.
Day of playing out this.
The KMT wouldn't surrender. I don't think they would surrender. I think they would be the unification party, and they'd be like, yeah, we're unifying with the mainland.
Scenario. We went into way more detail on every one of these moves, forcing calculations which really couldn't have come in any other way.
There's so much learning that takes place on both sides. The red team player.
The current KMT party, the modern day KMT party right now, is the pro-unification party in Taiwan. There are a lot of studies conducted on the Taiwanese attitude towards reunification. And the number one overwhelming majority obviously wants independence. But if independence is like, you know, well, the overwhelming majority across the board want the current system to exist in the way that it does without rocking the boat. Okay, that's the overwhelming attitude. There's also obviously full independence as I would say the most popular position. Virtually everyone in Taiwan wants to maintain the status quo. But if that's not the option, if the status quo is broken, okay, then yes, they want independence. The majority want independence. The KMT party's position is the status quo party position. Or status quo position. So if there was an opportunity for independence, yes, the Taiwanese population would want independence from China. But the overwhelming majority position at this moment is to continue along with the status quo.
Players learn about blue capabilities. The blue team players learn about red capabilities. I want them to put themselves in the headspace of the commanding officer, the person who would be making as many of those decisions as possible, and think about what information they would have, think about what information they wouldn't have.
The game is a framing mechanism. Each game that we design is targeting a different series of cognitive processes to try to help the players walk through how would I solve this problem or how would I approach this issue.
Okay, so
would the U.S. try to take over if they somehow got independence from China? I mean, if the independence movement would be entirely funded and supported by the United States, and is entirely funded and supported by the United States. Can you go into more detail of why U.S. intervention after 90 days would be stupid? Yeah, because the most opportune moment for intervention would be before a full-blown invasion. If a full-blown invasion started and it was successful and it was for 90 full days, then the only way to liberate Taiwan would be to kill Taiwanese people. Given Taiwan's proximity to mainland China, and also given the way that Taiwan sits as an island, it would be insane to do boots on the ground. I don't think they would do that. I think they would just fucking straight up try to fund insurgency groups to the best of their ability, because they already have pre-existing relations, obviously. Then China would sink the whole island instead of giving them independence? No, they would not do that. I don't think they would do that. That's also insane.
Play games about war to prepare for war. Some simple and physical that can be done in a day, some digital, built off software that take weeks. But what do we do with the results?
What a war game allows you to do is a very flexible approach to try to explore that and then set up things to go and analyze and things to go and test and do.
Back in the 1960s, the US military extensively gamed out what would happen if they joined the war in Vietnam. When they tested gradually bombing North Vietnam with air attacks, the conflict only escalated in the game, creating a prolonged conflict. In the game, the American public came out in opposition of this attack, support in the North. This all happened before the invasion, but the results were largely ignored, the assumptions questioned. And yet, when we ended up going into Vietnam, quote, the outcome of this game was eerily prophetic of what actually happened. In 1999, the US military gamed out what it would look like to overthrow Saddam Hussein. They gamed out assassination, an internal coup. They gamed out what it would look like to handle infighting in the Iraqi army, and even installing their own government. Every one of these resulted in some kind of chaos, ethnic conflict.
Yeah, good thing that didn't happen. Oh wait, literally all of that happened, and Iraq was launched into permanent chaos.
Military infighting, the breakup of the country, mass violence, rival forces bidding for power, concluding that this
is so funny because, like, you know, they predicted all this and then did it anyway, and then all of that happened.
Would create, quote, a period of widespread bloodshed and might lead to the creation of a less than desirable post-Saddam state. But a few years later, there was a new president in the White House, and he was leading a country that had just been attacked by terrorists based in Afghanistan. But George Bush and the people around him were still obsessed with overthrowing Saddam Hussein, a country away in Iraq. So they designed the most expensive game in US history, a war game that simulated a war with a made-up country. But the Secretary of Defense wanted a report on how the learnings from this game could be applied to a potential invasion of Iraq. The US side immediately lost the game when the red team used a bunch of low-tech tactics to get ahead, sinking an American ship. The adjudicator stopped the game to reset it, refloating the ship and saying that such low-tech tactics would never really work against the US in a real war.
He's talking about the famous, this is the famous Millennium Incident, right? And this was Iran. The fictional nation was Iran that they're talking about, not Iraq. The Millennium Challenge, where the American government got fucking rinsed and then turned around and were like, oh, we have to save scum and change the rules.
New constraints were put on the red team, and critics say that these new constraints effectively guaranteed that the US would win. Now, the adjudicators could have had other reasonings for resetting the game like this, but in the end, this
it was to protect the feelings of empire.
Presented yet another forced validation that the administration was seeking to invade Iraq. So war games can be very informative if those designing and playing those games are committed to learning from the game and not trying to get the outcome that they want. Something John Kirby emphasized to me a while back when we were...
I don't know why he said this was about Iraq. This wasn't... What the fuck? He interviewed John Kirby? Bro! Okay, dude. I mean, every day I am more and more sure that this man is CIA.
Setting up for an interview in the White House.
Only as good as the input.
Yeah.
And the honest way in which you execute them.
Back here on the game board, things continue to escalate, but we're out of time for today. Spending the day playing Xi Jinping taught me a lot, a unique form of learning that helped me understand the geopolitics of the Pacific in a new way. So I'm walking away from this with a much deeper understanding of why militaries put so much effort into making these games. I just got a little taste of it. Me and Sam are by no means good at this, but I can see how this serves as practice, as a way of testing assumptions, thinking in new ways, something that is so important for something that is so high stakes. War is chaotic. It's emotional. It's reliant on humans making human decisions, and it's impossible to realistically practice. And as always, when we talk about war, there's a deep paradox here, one that military thinkers have been repeating for centuries, that if you want peace, you must prepare for war.
So war is a common factor of history, and it's better to think about.
Wait, that's it? So I'm sorry. So he literally talked about how the U.S. war games and the Millennium Incident and the Millennium Challenge ended up with America losing, and therefore they fucking changed the dynamic and cheated. They save-scummed to ensure a victory. And then we don't even watch the rest of the video of like what happens when China and America duke it out. Dog, you're really not going to show us? You're really not going to show us who won?